Hi everyone, my name is Tianze Hua, and I'm excited to present our work on cross-lingual alignment and cross-lingual transfer. My collaborators are Tian Ying and Ellie Pavlik, and we're from the Lunar Lab at Brown University. Before starting the presentation, let's think about a thought experiment. Suppose you speak two languages, English and Spanish. Now someone asks you a question. How many planets are there in our solar system? And suppose you do not know the answer. However, you have an encyclopedia right in front of you, but it's written in Spanish. After reading through the encyclopedia, do you think you can now answer the initial question in English? Most likely the answer is yes. You'll learn a new piece of knowledge from the encyclopedia and will be able to answer the question. If you think about it, the information you learn from the Spanish text is essentially abstracted away from Spanish per se and becomes language-neutral knowledge, which allows you to re-express it in English. This may seem to be very obvious for us humans, but we might wonder if multilingual models, which are neural networks trained on multiple languages, can do the same as well. This brings us to a key concept, cross-lingual transfer. Here is a standard definition of cross-lingual transfer. We say a model has the ability to cross-lingual transfer if it's able to leverage data in some languages to improve performance in some other languages. The former languages are usually called source languages and the latter ones target languages. In the literature, various degrees of cross-lingual transferability has been found across different pre-trained models. So a natural question to ask is what factors are responsible for models being good at cross-lingual transfer? Here is a common hypothesis. Cross-lingual representation alignment is responsible for cross-lingual transfer. By representation alignment or cross-lingual alignment, it means that for semantically similar inputs from different languages, the multilingual model will learn a similar representation for all of them. Here is an example. If we give a language model inputs of 1 plus 1 equals in 3 different languages, we say that there is representation alignment if the model represents these inputs as something similar. You can imagine that the model will represent the next token as an abstract number 2 for all 3 inputs. And later on, it outputs the verbalized form of number 2, corresponding to the input language. So this is the common hypothesis. If we can observe cross-lingual alignment in a multilingual model, then we should also expect to see cross-lingual transfer. However, this hypothesis, although believed by many, has not been thoroughly tested. One of our main research questions is to ask whether cross-lingual alignment is a sufficient condition for cross-lingual transfer. Before we can investigate that question, we first need to confirm that cross-lingual alignment is present when models are trained on multilingual data. With models that show cross-lingual alignment, we can then carry out experiments for learning the relationship between alignment and transfer. And then a possible follow-up question would be, if alignment is not sufficient, what are other feasible ways of ensuring cross-lingual transfer? I'll first talk about the methods we use to study these research questions. We introduced a synthetic environment called Multilingual Othello, which is based on a board game called Othello. On a high level, Multilingual Othello, or mOthello, contains Othello game sequences described in different languages. We use it to answer our research questions by analyzing models trained on these multilingual sequences. We chose to use this synthetic environment because it gives us the flexibility of controlling the form of languages we use to train our models. Moreover, the semantics of these multilingual sequences are more straightforward comparing to natural language sentences, since they just represent Othello game trajectories. So what is multilingual Othello? To represent Othello game trajectories, we encode each game move in Othello as an integer, so that an Othello game trajectory becomes a list of integers. In mOthello, we need to define a set of language-specific mapping functions, which maps individual game moves to language-specific tokens. Using those mapping functions, we'll be able to translate game trajectories into sentences in different languages. We can synthetically generate a lot of game trajectories as the basis, and then construct the multilingual corpus by randomly sampling a language to be translated into, and mix all the sequences in different languages. To model the syntactic complexities of natural languages, we also introduce language variants. The atomic language is the simplest of all. It transcribes each game move as a single token. In split languages, each game move is randomly split into one or more tokens. This mimics the situation where you need different numbers of words to refer to the same object in different languages. In compositional languages, each game move is tokenized into its row and column indices, which allows token reuse. As for the models, we use a GPT-2 model, which is standard architecture in sequence modeling tasks. Next, we need to find a way to measure whether representations are aligned or not. Here, we introduce cross-lingual alignment probing. First of all, probes are low-complexity classifiers that are trained to recover information encoded in hidden representations of deep neural networks. In our case, we want to recover the information about the board state encoded in the contextual representation produced by trained models. To measure the degree of alignment between representations, we first train a probe on language 1. This probe P is trained on a lot of game sequences in language 1 paired with ground truth board states from a game simulator, so that it learns to extract board states from hidden representations. After the probe is trained, we use it in a zero-shot fashion on representations of input sequences in another language too. If the probe can achieve a comparable accuracy as it does on inputs from language 1, then it is reasonable to say this mOthello GPT model encodes the board state information in a very similar way across languages 1 and 2, thus showing a strong alignment in representations. On the other hand, how do we measure cross-lingual transfer? We use this pre-training fine-tuning approach to measure cross-lingual transfer. Here, different colors of the boards represent different languages. After the model is pre-trained on a multilingual corpus, we fine-tune the model on one of the languages with a better distribution that is guaranteed to improve the model's performance in the fine-tuned language. We want to see if this improvement can also be transferred to the target languages as well. Without further ado, let's look at some results. The first experiment is related to the research question on whether straightforward multilingual pre-training leads to cross-lingual alignment. The naive training approach is simply feeding a model an aggregation of sequences in multiple languages. And notice that the tokens used in each language are completely disjoint with each other. We train a model on 20 atomic languages to see whether there is an aligned representation across all of them. The heat map on the right shows the probing accuracy between each pair of languages. The higher the accuracy with a warmer color, the better the alignment score between that language pair. We can see that clusters form among subsets of languages, but there is no global alignment across all languages. This means that the naive training approach does not guarantee cross-lingual alignment. For the next experiment, we explored another approach, introducing anchor tokens, to see if that helps with cross-lingual alignment. Notice that in the naive training approach, tokens from different languages are completely disjoint with each other. Suggested in many previous work, vocabulary overlap is a key factor to representation alignment. So we try anchor tokens. Anchor tokens are basically shared tokens across languages. Illustrated in this figure on the left, the token B can be considered as an anchor token between the two input languages. And the hope is that anchor tokens can provide anchor points so that the rest of the token representations can also be aligned. Anchor tokens are also very prevalent in natural languages. On the right, in the listed Roman languages, we can see that there are a lot of lexicon overlaps that can function as anchor tokens. In experiment 2, we train bilingual models with different language pairs and introduce different numbers of anchor tokens between these language pairs. With more anchor tokens, we can see there is an improvement in the alignment of representations, indicated by the increasing trend of the probing accuracy as more anchor tokens are introduced. This result confirms that training with anchor tokens does lead to cross-lingual alignment. Following, we will use anchor tokens to train models to form cross-lingual alignment and see whether those models also showcase cross-lingual transfer. Using the method we introduced in the beginning, we pre-train bilingual models with different language pairs and fine-tune them with data only from one language. First of all, we verify that anchor tokens are indeed effective in facilitating cross-lingual alignment. We plotted the cross-lingual alignment score in purple. This is recorded from model checkpoints throughout the fine-tuning process. As you can see, The introduction of 8 anchor tokens helped to improve the alignment score by a significant amount compared to the score achieved using the naive approach. Next, we verified that our fine-tuned data does help the source language to improve. As you can see here, indicated by the blue lines, it does so. Now we look at the performance of the target language, which is indicated by the orange lines. Contrary to the common hypothesis would predict, that is, the target language performance will improve along with the source language, in this figure, we do not observe positive cross-lingual transfer while cross-lingual alignment is present. This implies that cross-lingual alignment is not sufficient for cross-lingual transfer. Finally, we'd like to explore alternative approaches that could reliably bring cross-lingual transfer to multilingual models. Here is one approach we tested. In this training setting, the inputs are sequences from different languages, but the output language is said to be the same. A concrete example would be, imagine a model trained on mathematical questions in different languages, but always produce an answer in mathematical notation that is different from any of the input languages. Let's see how this approach works. We copied over the results from previous experiments. We first look at the cross-lingual alignment score achieved using this new approach. We can see that the alignment score achieved using this new approach is comparable with the alignment score achieved using 8 anchor tokens. Next, we verify the fine-tuning process for the source language still works, which is the case here. And finally, we look at the performance of the target languages. We see a performance improvement in the target language, which indicates evidence for positive cross-lingual transfer. This trend is particularly strong in the model trained with 2 atomic languages. You can see that the blue line and the orange line almost exactly overlaps with each other. This indicates that even though the model has never seen a single sequence in the target language during fine-tuning, the performance is transferred perfectly to the target language. In the model trained with atomic and split languages, the performance improvement is less perfect, but you can still see that in the first few epochs, there is positive cross-lingual transfer. We also reported the results for models trained on atomic and compositional languages, which is similar to what we see here for the split language. These results show that training with unified output space is one way to achieve both cross-lingual alignment and cross-lingual transfer. To sum up our work, we found that naive training does not lead to global representation alignment. Second, anchor tokens can lead to cross-lingual alignment. Third, cross-lingual alignment is not sufficient to facilitate cross-lingual transfer. And finally, the unified output space approach both aligns representations and facilitates cross-lingual transfer. Here are some QR codes for more information. Feel free to check them out. Thank you.